Hello and welcome to Hillsborough County Public Schools Title IX Sexual Harassment Training. Your training today is on 37 words that were implemented into federal law in 1972 that impacted gender equity in the educational system. Please listen carefully and thank you for helping Hillsborough County Public Schools maintain an environment which is free from all forms of unlawful harassment, including sexual harassment. No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title IX, Education Amendments of 1972. This presentation will help you identify forms of harassment, become familiar with the district policies regarding harassment, as well as understanding your role.
What is Title IX? Simply stated, Title IX is a comprehensive federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual harassment, gender-based harassment, sexual violence, and any federally funded education program or activity. Title IX is enforced by the United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. What is Title IX? Simply stated, Title IX is a comprehensive federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual harassment, gender-based harassment, sexual violence, and any federally funded education program or activity. Title IX is enforced by the United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. Like Title IX, it is the policy of the school board to maintain an education and work environment which is free from all forms of unlawful harassment, including sexual harassment. This applies to all district operations, programs, and activities. All students, administrators, teachers, staff, and all other school personnel share responsibility for avoiding, discouraging, and reporting any form of unlawful harassment. There are many forms of harassment and bullying. For example, there are verbal acts, including name-calling, graphic images, or written statements, and the use of different forms of social media. It is important to note that some conduct that falls under the district's anti-bullying policy may also violate Title IX. For example, sexually charged name-calling, spreading rumors about sexual behavior, or circulating, showing, or creating emails, texts, or websites of a sexual nature violate Title IX. It is important to understand that it does not matter whether the harasser intends harm or not, and it does not require repeated incidents. Let us take a look at the different types of sexual harassments, along with some examples. As mentioned earlier, Title IX prohibits sexual harassment, sexual violence, gender-based harassment. School districts violate Title IX when sex-based harassment is so serious that it creates a hostile environment for the victim, and such harassment is encouraged, tolerated, not adequately addressed, or ignored by school employees. So what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature, which can include sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal, nonverbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Students can be victimized by students or employees, and employees can be victimized by employees. Examples of sexual harassment include unwelcome touching of a sexual nature, making sexual comments, jokes, or gestures, or spreading sexual rumors, calling students sexually charged names, circulating, showing, or creating emails, texts, or websites of a sexual nature, such as Facebook and Instagram. Gender-based harassment can occur if a student is harassed for exhibiting what is perceived as a stereotypical characteristic for his or her sex, or for failing to conform to stereotypical notions of masculinity and femininity. For example, harassment of a female student because she does not act the way that her peers think that girls should act. We do not want our students harassed for any reason. Sexual violence. This is serious. Sexual violence is a form of sexual harassment prohibited by Title IX, which includes conduct that is criminal in nature. Examples of sexual violence that include physical contact are rape, sexual assault, sexual battery, sexual coercion, unwanted touching, dating violence, sexually motivated stalking.
Remember, not only does Title IX protect students and employees from sexual harassment, Title IX prohibits retaliation against any individual who files a Title IX complaint or who participates in a complaint investigation. How do we do this? By following the district's Title IX grievance procedures. These are the procedures that are followed to ensure prompt and equitable resolution of sexual harassment complaints. The district's administrative procedures for reporting bullying and harassment will apply to making a complaint of sexual harassment. There are currently 5 ways to report a bully, which also applies to harassment: verbally, webmaster. Parents and students can utilize the online bully harassment reporting system via the district's webpage. Paper form. The school must make bully harassment forms available to students and parents in the guidance, student affairs, or school administration offices. Email to the district. Parents and students may at times email the superintendent, board member, or other district staff with bullying harassment complaints. And Crime Stoppers. Additionally, there are 2 other ways to report a Title IX violation. That is by contacting the district Title IX coordinator for the student-on-student incidents and the general manager of professional standards when an instructional employee is involved.
As part of the district's Title IX compliance efforts, principals are the Title IX coordinators for their school site. The coordinator is responsible for the district's compliance with Title IX, including knowing the requirements of Title IX, understanding the district's Title IX grievance procedures, investigating or coordinating the Title IX investigation of all student-on-student complaints that have a potential Title IX component, including sexual harassment, gender-based harassment, and sexual violence, where the alleged victim is a student at his or her school. Acknowledging his or her review and approval of the school's Title IX investigations and determinations by signing a cover page to the student-on-student complaint investigation files. Addressing systematic problems revealed during investigations. Report the investigation to the area superintendent and Title IX office. They can provide guidance on next steps and other important information to consider. Do you know it's your duty to investigate whether a harassed student, his or her parent, or a third party files a complaint under the Title IX grievance procedures or requests action on the student's behalf? A school that knows, or reasonably should know, about possible sexual harassment must act and investigate. This means you have been notified. The investigation must be completed in 60 days. Therefore, you have 30 days and the district has 30 days to review the required documentation and work with you to make sure your case is complete. Regardless of the ultimate determination, you must conduct a Title IX investigation, and during the investigation, the school must take steps to protect the student from further sexual harassment and retaliation. Did you know schools may have the obligation to respond to student-on-student sexual harassment that initially occurred off school grounds, outside of a school's education program or activity? If a student files a student-on-student complaint with the school, regardless of where the conduct occurred, the school must process the complaint in accordance with the established procedures. Why, you ask? Because students often experience the continuing effects of off-campus sexual harassment in the educational setting. Schools should consider the effects of the off-campus conduct when evaluating whether there is a hostile environment on campus. In conducting the investigation, you must make sure that it is prompt, thorough, and impartial. You need to start a timeline for each case, be very specific, and document all of the steps of the process, including the remedies put in place, which should begin immediately after the complaint is filed.
Once you've been notified of a Title IX complaint, you must take immediate interim steps as necessary to ensure the safety of the victim and the school before the final outcome of the investigation. Contact parents of both the victim and the alleged perpetrator to inform them of the complaint, the school's grievance procedures, and of school's requirement, due to nature of the complaint, to conduct a prompt and thorough Title IX investigation into the incident. The school should notify the victim and their parent of his or her options to avoid contact with the alleged perpetrator and allow students to change academic situations as appropriate. For instance, the school may prohibit the alleged perpetrator from having any contact with the victim pending results of the school's investigation. When taking steps to separate students, a school administrator should minimize the burden on the victim. Remember to notify the area superintendent and the Title IX office. Offer counseling with a school mental health professional. For example, a school psychologist, school social worker, and/or school counselor to all students involved, with parent or guardian approval as additional support. Please be aware that school-based counseling is not considered therapy. Students who need more intensive counseling may need to be referred to an outside resource. The school mental health professional will consult with the parent or guardian to provide referrals as appropriate. However, even if the student is receiving outside mental health services, the school mental health professional may still provide counseling services as appropriate. Make the victim aware of any additional health or mental resources available, and ensure the victim knows how to report any subsequent retaliation. Where an alleged Title IX complaint involves students who attended different schools, the responsibility to conduct the school Title IX investigation, determination, documentation falls with the administration at the alleged victim's school. Middle and high schools obtain written statements from all witnesses interviewed. Elementary may document content of interviews by written summary from administrators who conducted the interview, and it must be done close in time to the actual interview. Obtain written statements from all adult witnesses. Make sure that in elementary schools where the administrator must write a summary of the interview with the student that this takes place soon after the interview so facts and details are clear. Do not let very young students write their statements if they cannot be read and understood. When the conduct is both Title IX and criminal, notify the victim or parent of the victim, depending on the victim's age, of their right to file a criminal complaint.
Hopefully, the next set of slides will help you in making your determination of whether sexual harassment occurred or not. Based on your findings, you will determine sexual harassment occurred, it is inconclusive, or there is no basis or no findings of sexual harassment. To make a determination of a Title IX violation, you must analyze the evidence and ask the following questions. Number 1, was the conduct sexual or based on sexual stereotyping? Number 2, was the conduct unwelcome? Number 3, was the conduct sufficiently severe, pervasive, or persistent? If questions 1, 2, and 3 were yes, then sexual harassment did occur. Administrators, in the case where a student perpetrator has been found to have sexually harassed another student, and that student transfers to another school resulting from that incident, the principal of the original school will call the principal at the new school to provide notice of the complaint and findings so that remedies may be imposed if determined appropriate. When analyzing the evidence, if questions 1, 2, or 3 are no, then sexual harassment is inconclusive. Number 1, was the conduct sexual or based on sexual stereotyping? Number 2, was the conduct unwelcome? Number 3, was the conduct sufficiently severe, pervasive, or persistent? When analyzing the evidence, if questions 1, 2, and 3 are no, then there is no basis for sexual harassment. Number 1, was the conduct sexual or based on sexual stereotyping? Number 2, was the conduct unwelcome? Number 3, was the conduct sufficiently severe, pervasive, or persistent?
Okay, now that you have made a determination that the determination was that the sexual harassment occurred, or it was determined that sexual harassment was inconclusive, the school must eliminate the harassment, prevent its reoccurrence, and address its effects. For example, you must put remedies in place, and depending on the problem, remedies for the victim might include providing an escort between classes, ensuring victim and perpetrator do not attend the same class, moving the perpetrator to another school within the district, providing counseling and medical services, providing academic support services such as tutoring, and reviewing any disciplinary actions against the victim. Notice of outcome. What may be disclosed to the victim? FERPA permits a school to disclose to the harassed student information about the sanction imposed upon a student who was found to have engaged in harassment when the sanction directly relates to the harassed student. This includes an order that the harasser stay away from the harassed student, or that the harasser is prohibited from attending school for a period of time, or is transferred to other classes. Disclosure of this information is important in sexual harassment cases because it affects whether a hostile environment has been eliminated. Why, you may ask? Because seeing the perpetrator may be traumatic. A victim may continue to be subject to a hostile environment if he or she doesn't know when the perpetrator will return to school or whether he or she will continue to share classes with the perpetrator. Thank you for helping us keep Hillsborough County Public Schools safe.